Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you now something the likes of which you've never seen before. The most dangerous combination of professional sports. The skill, the strength, the stamina, and the ability of two men blended together as one. The most exciting combination in the history of professional wrestling, twin sons of different mothers.
Chris Adams and Mike Current.
Let Body Slam competition.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Body Slam the Competition, where we are just doing what we call a wrestling spotlight show. It's going to be a small series of shows we're going to do based over different situations. Could be a wrestling time frame. It could be a particular wrestler or a tag team manager, anything like that, but just a spotlight of that part of wrestling. And tonight it's going to be an individual wrestler himself of Magnum TA. Now, a lot of the younger people may not know who Magnum TA is. He's one of the greatest ones that there could have been in the territory days. In the territorial days, we had a guy named Magnum. First coming in the league is Terry Allen, under his just regular name Terry Allen, and he wrestled for the NWA in Florida and the Pacific Northwest, I believe, are the two places that he started out wrestling there. And he also broke into the Midwest area after that in the Bill Watts area. But before we get too far into it, I'll go ahead and bring in my guest with me. I got for this week special guest Scott Middleton, who is the host of I Love the 80s podcast wrestling as well. So, Scott, welcome to the show with us.
Thank you for having me. And sorry I didn't get in right away. Computer problems. You know how technology is nowadays.
I know. You can't depend on anything, can you? Just computer this, Wi-Fi that, whatever,
Exactly. And like I said, I want to thank you again for letting me be on here and talk about Magnum TA, which, in my opinion, he was a good wrestler, great wrestler, and unfortunately, a career that could have went to who knows how far was cut short because of that car accident he had. So,
right. I mean, he's probably the greatest wrestler that never happened. And I say that because he did happen, but he didn't get a chance to fully go to his potential there. Now, we're only doing a quick 30-minute show tonight, Scott, just to give you a heads up. So I know it's 30 minutes because Magnum his career was kind of cut short, so we don't have a lot to cover on it. But starting off with him, came out, we got Terry Wayne Allen is his name, born June 11th, 1959. Currently, he's 57 years old. He started out wrestling, as I mentioned, just as you come on, and for the NWA. He was also a part of the Pacific Northwest wrestling territory and in Florida as well. He was a 5-time global tag team champion before he started making it big in the Mid-South area in Bill Watts. And what really got him noticed in that area, that territory, if you remember, is Mr. Wrestling 2. He took him on and was training him.
Exactly.
And Mr. Wrestling 2 was a popular guy at the time.
Oh, yeah. And before, like about an hour or two before, even if you want to go a little bit further back than that, was down in the Southwest territory, the Blanchard territory. And I watched a match with him and Nick Bockwinkel. And you could see in that match there was the potential of being something great in that match, even though Nick Bockwinkel won. But, you could just see it in that match that he had the potential of being a great superstar, in my opinion.
Absolutely. At an early age, he had the look and he had the ability to talk. He had everything going for him. And when he ended up leaving the smaller territories, not that Joe Blanchard didn't have a great territory, he had a lot of great names come through there, but moving on up to Bill Watts and getting closer to his NWA Crockett promotion era career, Mr. Wrestling 2 took an eye to him and started training him. And what really did a big turnaround is when the unthinkable happened and Mr. Wrestling 2 turned on him. Now, I didn't get to watch these things growing up because Bill Watts Territory stuff wasn't available on TV where I was. But I do have the CD set they released, and, of course, there's YouTube to see these kind of things on. And if anybody out there is interested in Magnum TA, definitely look up Magnum TA on YouTube, and it's a real joy to see a lot of his matches that he has. It only got better, though. After he left the Bill Watts Territory, Scott, and went to the Crockett Promotions, that's when he really took off. And he was pretty much deemed as the next champion that they were going to do. Dusty was booking, and they had it fixed where they were going to have Magnum TA eventually carrying the strap that Ric Flair carried for so long. Oh, yeah.
And definitely, like, with go back a little bit to the Bill Watts Territory, it's like he, to me, him teaming up with Mr. Wrestling 2 was nothing but greatness. And their feud with the Midnight Express over the Mid-South Tag Team titles were classic tag team matches. And then, like you said, Mr. Wrestling 2 walked out on him. And so that was the heel turn for Mr. Wrestling 2. And then he eventually beat Mr. Wrestling 2 for that North American title. And,
right.
That feud was good. And then, he had other feuds in the Mid-South. And then, like you said, he moved on to the Mid-Atlantic area, the Jim Crockett promotion. And if I remember correctly, I don't know if you'd remember, he wasn't there very long before he beat the great, legendary Wahoo McDaniel for the U.S. title, if I remember correctly. He wasn't there very long.
No, he wasn't there very long at all. He had just debuted and immediately went into a feud with Wahoo McDaniel, defeating him for the United States Championship. No, that was a great series right there they went through, a great feud with him. Do you remember where he got the name Magnum TA from?
I don't remember who gave it to him, but I know it was because of he looked almost exactly like Tom Selleck, and Tom Selleck was big on Magnum PI. So
right, he had.
I remember that.
The exact Tom Selleck, the mustache going on. He had longer hair, obviously, but he had that mustache going on. And he come out, basically, they had a character known as the American Heartthrob, Magnum TA, based on Allen's, or Terry Allen, I keep referring to him as Terry Allen, but Magnum TA's slight resemblance to actor Tom Selleck. Now, Andre the Giant is the one who suggested that he combine the Magnum and his initials for Magnum TA.
Oh,
and that name just stood out from that point forward. It was a name that stood out as greatness. And when people seen how great he was when he come in and took that belt from Wahoo, who has been around for a while, already made a name for himself as one of the toughest guys out there, and took that belt from him, it was huge. And what really made it even bigger than that was he went on to defend it against Kamala, and then pretty much a Four Horsemen thing went from there. Now, you probably remember these. This is when I started picking up on it a lot, during that time frame when he was feuding with the Four Horsemen, because he had the infamous matches with Tully Blanchard, especially the I Quit match.
Oh, yeah. To me, honestly, in the Mid-Atlantic area, to me, there's only two really great feuds he had. That was with Tully Blanchard and Nikita Koloff. Go a little bit ahead, back to the Nikita one before Tully. It's just, that match went back and forth. You never knew, was Magnum going to be able to beat Nikita, or was Russia going to overthrow the United States and Nikita beat Magnum? But, both of those feuds were probably, in my opinion, his best feuds that he ever had, in my opinion. So,
well, it's true. And the thing that the one that makes the feud with Nikita so iconic is that it was a best-of-7 series for the U.S. heavyweight title. Now, the reason why it was a best-of-7 series is because he had this thing where he had they had a contract signing between him and Nikita. During that time frame, I believe a fight busted out because Magnum had his mom with him there, and Nikita had brought Ivan Koloff with him, his Uncle Ivan. And Nikita had insulted Magnum's mom, and he hit him, and they started fighting at that signing. So the next week on TV, Bob Caudle came out and told him that they were stripping him of the title for conduct unbecoming of a champion, basically. in which case Magnum had replied to him with the infamous, reprimand this. He punched Bob Geigel, which was something.
I remember.
So as a result of that, they stripped him of that title, and they made a best-of-7 series between him and Nikita that went through quite a few bits. Now, Magnum lost the first 3, and then built his way back up to a tie. He had tied him back up 3-3, had the final one, that final match, and that was something else. It took Nikita and both Ivan and Crusher Khrushchev as well to go ahead and have beat Magnum for that last 7th match to take that title. But that was one of the best that he had. Now, do you have a favorite Magnum TA moment that you can remember? I know you said the 2 feuds that you like the best. Is there a moment that you like best with Magnum TA?
I'd have to say the best moment, wasn't any of his interviews, because he was all right on the mic. He wasn't great, but he was all right. But I'd say the best moment, the one that I keep watching whenever I can find it and all that, and that's during that I Quit match, steel cage with Tully Blanchard, where he takes the end of that chair and just sticked it right into Tully Blanchard's head, and you hear Tully Blanchard yelling, "I quit, I quit, I quit," and all that. To me, that is probably one of the best Magnum TA moments. How about yours, Chris?
I'm really big on when he teamed with Dusty, and they were going against the Midnight Express, and they came out under the hoods of the James Gang. And on Saturday evening on the television at 6:05 Eastern, that's a whole time frame they had for that. Always 6:05 when it would start. But they come out there, and the Midnight Express are scheduled to fight a match with the James Gang, or the James Boys, they were called. And James Boys come out there, and they get in the ring, and Dennis Condrey and Jim Cornette were having the biggest fit because they could tell who it was. It was pretty obvious. It was Dusty Rhodes, and it was Magnum TA, and they ended up beating them on TV that night. Not for the titles, but just in the match. They weren't expecting to have that. It wasn't a title match, but they beat them in front of everybody on national television, showing that they could. And I think the week after that, or 2 weeks later, they had another match between them on television, and the Midnight Express, they unmasked them just to find out that it was Sam Houston and somebody else under some
Exactly.
And Dusty and Magnum come out and got him again, when it really was them the whole time. But that's my favorite Magnum moment, when he was out there with Dusty as the member of the James Gang fighting against the Midnight Express. Now, he's got a lot of great matches and stuff that I remember, but just that one moment right there. And there's a close second. If I had to pick a second one, or a very close second, it's when he came back from his accident and he's on television and he's got the cane he's walking with, and Tully Blanchard comes out with J.J. Dillon, and they confront him, and they end up attacking him, and of course he can't defend himself anymore, and Dusty comes out with the baseball bat and tries to choke the life out of Tully Blanchard.
I remember that
too.
And he hit Crockett, and Crockett went down, and Dusty got stripped of I think it was the U.S. title and all that. That was good too, and I remember those matches. It was pretty funny, and and during that Great American Bash thing, Baby Doll would either team up with Dusty and Magnum to go against the Midnight Express, or the Rock and Roll Express, or whoever. And Magnum was to me, he was a great wrestler. Just a career that unfortunately was cut short because of that accident. And I know he does all these wrestling legendary legends fan thing and all that, and hopefully one of these days I'll get to go to one where he's at and meet him and all that. But like here a while ago, you had I think you had her on, Tully Blanchard's daughter. Did you have her on, or was that?
Oh no, that was Sam Houston. That was Sam Houston's daughter, Baby Doll. Their daughter. It was that was her, Michaela Smith, I believe her last name is. They call her Samantha Starr is her wrestling name.
All right, and it has to be kind of weird for Tully Blanchard's daughter, because here you have your dad, and then your stepdad is Magnum TA. So, and they feud and all that, but that'd be kind of.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. They've said before in the past. I've read this online about some of the girls in the Indies, and they were talking about the 4 horsewomen that they had in NXT, which was Charlotte Flair, and then Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Bayley. But they were saying the true four horsewomen is really out there, or it could be anyway, and it should be. They said Charlotte Flair and Tessa Blanchard, Samantha Starr, because she's Baby Doll's daughter, and then find one more that you could kayfabe into it and say she was an Anderson or something like that if you had to, and you get your real four horsewomen at that point. But the whole thing with Magnum TA right now, he's got wrestling in his blood still with Tessa Blanchard. He helped train Tessa Blanchard with George South, and Tully Blanchard's had his hand in it, of course, because that's his daughter. It's crazy because when you think about it, back in the kayfabe time, two of the biggest rivals of all time in Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA, and when you see them out there, they might be out in public eating with Tessa Blanchard, as a trio of family out there eating and everything, which is some crazy stuff.
My thing is, how long, if he didn't get into the accident and he beat Ric Flair, how long do you see him holding that title?
Well, that's something I was going to bring up to you. It's a very interesting question, a very thing to theorize about, because it's not just Ric Flair. Where would the wrestling scene in general be if Magnum TA had reached gold and kept it for a while? Would Ric Flair have went on to become the multi-time champion that he did? Would Magnum TA have held that belt for a while, got big, and went to somewhere like WWE, WWF at the time, or would he have done anything differently? Would the shape of WCW have been different later on? It could have changed the tide of everything, because we're talking about a big what-if thing, a change in the past where someone who was great we lost due to a car accident and couldn't wrestle anymore. What if that car accident never happened? He achieved greatness and won the title and went on to hold that title and defend it over the next few years off and on, keep regaining. He might have lost it again to Flair, but regaining it again and having that long-term feud that him and Dusty, that Flair and Dusty ended up having for the most part. It would have been more like Magnum TA and Flair probably at that point. And he could have had it for a while. And that could have changed the whole situation for the singles back in the day. Yeah. You might have ever seen a Ronnie Garvin to get his win that he did. You may have never seen that at all.
Exactly.
The ones who took the belt, at that point, it may never had it afterwards. There may have been no Sting for a longer time. Sting may not have had that title for a while, or with Magnum TA being as big as he was, they may not have been interested in Sting anymore at that time.
Exactly.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, like me, I personally, I think Magnum would have been a good champion. Would have been a great champion? No one knows. I personally don't think he would have been a great champion like, say, Ric Flair, but who is? But anyway, but I do see him being a better champion than, say, Dusty Rhodes was, because, we talked about that before. Dusty was more suited to chasing that title instead of keeping it. I think Magnum would have at least held it maybe 2 times, in my opinion. And then, unfortunately, he probably would have went to the WWF, and we know what Vince used to do to former NWA World Champions. Just look at Ronnie Garvin. That just proves to you what he used to do to him. So.
Yeah, well, we don't know exactly if he would have went to WWF. It's possible. He may have went for a payday, depending on how his career would have gone. And, Dusty, you got to remember also Dusty was doing more booking than anything, so it would have been a conflict of interest if Dusty was constantly booking himself as champion. It would be hard to keep talent there and interested when you're the boss and you're booking yourself as a main event, the champion the whole time. So I don't think that would have happened too much anyway. He would have kept doing the chase more than anything. Now, Magnum TA, he definitely had the athleticism for it to be a champion for a while. Now, he didn't have the mic skills that Flair had, and I'm not saying that he would have taken Flair's spot or anything by any means, because Flair is Flair. He was great before Magnum TA fought with him. He would have been great afterwards. It just makes you wonder how the landscape would have changed overall. Like, what would have happened with the U.S. title when Magnum wasn't holding the world title? Would it be holding the U.S. title? Or would it went to some of these other different people that we've seen over the years? And like I said, it might have affected who came in. Maybe Sting never came in there. Maybe Sting left there and went to WWF at the time because he wasn't needed in WCW. How would it have worked out with Ultimate Warrior and Sting in that same federation all those years?
Exactly. Or here would have been a great match, in my opinion, if Magnum TA didn't get hurt and he became world champion. Magnum TA as NWA World Champion versus Barry Windham as NWA United States Champion. To me, that would have been a great feud.
Yeah, that would have been. They could have had some great matches together, too. There were a lot of different things that could have happened that we'll never get to see, that never did happen now. But to talk about the car accident for just a minute, for those who don't know it, of course, all the older guys like us are going to be familiar with it, but for any of the younger people who are interested in learning about Magnum TA, he had a terrible car accident on October 14th, 1986. He was driving his Porsche, and there was a magazine on the cover of the magazine. It was him with his Porsche. I remember having that magazine. And then there's another one after he had the wreck. It showed the damaged, totaled Porsche, and you're just wondering how he even lived through it. But it was raining. He lost control, wrapped his car around a telephone pole. They had thought at first maybe he had been speeding, but they had tests done, forensic tests done with the cops and everything. They did their job. Determined that at the way it looked with the skid marks and everything, he was not really speeding. It's just that he got hydroplaned on the water and he was off the road and into the thing. The thing was he sat there for 2 hours in the car with nobody had found him yet. 2 hours in the car that had been wrapped around that pole, and it had caused his C4 and C5 vertebrae to practically explode. And it was doubted that he would ever walk again, much less anything else. But he had great physical conditioning as a wrestler. He had a lot of the mental prowess there to want to walk again. He was determined he wanted to walk again. Doctors didn't give him much hope for it, but with all the work that the doctors did and his conditioning and his mental state of mind that he was going to do it, he eventually did walk again, but he was on a cane and did not walk very well at first. As the years went by, he started walking a lot better as more years got put on. He did. Now, do you remember how long he stayed out there as an announcer? He did some announcing for a while with the guys in the booth.
I think he maybe. I'm wanting to say maybe like a year.
Yeah, it wasn't very. It wasn't very long at all. And then he did some stuff where he would interview the guys in the back too, some as well.
And to me, like him as an interviewer or even as a color commentator, especially when they'd show him down there, like with Tony Schiavone or whoever it was, it looked like he just it wasn't really meshing that well with him as that. But then when he got into the back with the other wrestlers interviewing them, it seemed like he was more believable there than he was as the color commentator or like that. What do you think?
I don't know. You kind of busted in and out a little bit there, Scott. Can you repeat that for me?
Well, like how when he was down there with Tony Schiavone doing the color commentating, it kind of seemed like he wasn't really all real, comfortable. But then when he was in the back interviewing the wrestlers, it seemed like he was more comfortable with that instead.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with you. I don't think he was much for the color commentating. The matches going in hand. I don't think he liked calling the matches. Talking to the guys in the back, interviewing them seemed more natural to him because it's just the guys back there. So it's a lot different for him. I think he was definitely more comfortable with that. He eventually now one of the things that stands out about that car wreck, though, that was what turned Nikita Koloff as a face at that point. And so I won't talk a lot about that because this is the Magnum TA bit. But Nikita Koloff came out and took his place in a match with Dusty Rhodes in a cage match where they were facing the Four Horsemen. And they were shocked to see Nikita Koloff come out. Everybody was. And after that happened, that formed the Superpowers, they called themselves, Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff. So one thing came out of the car wreck, and that was good. One thing bad happened. We lost Magnum TA as a wrestler for the rest of his career. We also gained a different perspective from Nikita Koloff, not just being the Russian heel there. He would turn face and side with Dusty, had a respect for Magnum and the best of seven that they had, eventually feuding with his Uncle Ivan as well and the other guys. One more thing to mention here, I guess, as far as Magnum goes, and this will probably be the last bit we get to cover. This is what I mentioned earlier, came back on television as an angle, and Tully Blanchard came out and attacked him. Dusty Rhodes comes back out to aid his friend, and Rhodes was subsequently suspended and returned as a Midnight Rider. That's one of the infamous Dusty Midnight Rider times, and which is always a fun thing to see because they always had such a huge fit over that Midnight Rider bit. You knew it was Dusty, talked like Dusty, walked like Dusty, but you never could prove it was Dusty, and they wouldn't take the mask off of him or anything. So that was one of the last great things I can think of that happened with Magnum right there. Other than that, he's made appearances over the years at promotions for signing autographs, meet and greets with fans, special person in the corner for somebody during one of their matches at an indie show or something like that. His personal life after his wreck and everything he had in his career, he's fully rehabilitated and walking and everything. Born again Christian, runs a small commodity hedge fund, it says, and communication towers business. He lives with his family. Well, you know what? I don't know if this is current news or not as far as where he lives. This is saying he lives in England. I'm not sure about that. It's only possible. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure. But wrestling carries on through him, though, in a sense. Tessa Blanchard, since he's helped train her. And hopefully she gets a chance to make her presence known in the WWE soon. She's been in NXT for a little bit, in and out. I don't know if she's gotten a great shake there to really show her stuff, but hopefully she will. And one thing here you may not know, did you know that Magnum TA is the godfather of Cody Rhodes?
Nope, didn't know that.
Godfather of Cody Rhodes, which is a pretty cool thing there. So
that kind of makes sense since him and Dusty were friends and all that. So
right. Noted finishing move, belly-to-belly suplex. That was the big thing for him right there. He had probably the best belly-to-belly suplex you've seen in wrestling. Just like you've seen Tully Blanchard with a slingshot suplex. No one else done one better. Magnum TA had that belly-to-belly down, coming off the ropes and catching them into the belly-to-belly and slamming them down. It was awesome. He'd had a lot of gold over his career, over his short career, quite a bit of gold during that time. 5-time NWA Florida Global Tag Team Champions, 3 times with Scott McGee, once with Dusty Rhodes, once with Brad Armstrong. He was the United States Heavyweight Champion 2 times, Mid-South North American Champion 2 times, Mid-South Tag Team Champions 2 times, once with Jim Duggan, once with Mr. Wrestling 2. He was Pro Wrestling Illustrated, ranked number 73 of the 500 best singles wrestlers up until 2003. And for having such a short career and reaching that kind of a height, Scott's pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah, definitely very impressive to me. And, like you said, if younger people want to know about Magnum TA, just go to YouTube and type in Magnum TA, and there's a lot of matches. There's even some of his shoot interviews, as they call them. I haven't heard any of them, but listen to them. But, there's just a lot of stuff out there about Magnum TA that people can find out.
Right. Just educate yourself on the history of wrestling anyway if you get a chance. And for the ones you don't know, go back and see who paved the way for the guys you watch today to get in the ring and do what they do. He's one of the people who were athletic, and he didn't do any high flying or anything like that, but he was great in the ring, a great ring psyche about him, and just a career lost that should have been something really, really great and just never panned out.
Oh, definitely. And not to, I don't know if you mentioned this at the very beginning, but I just saw on Facebook on a different wrestling page, we lost yet another legend on, I think it was February 10th. I don't know if you saw that. That was Bruiser Bob Sweetan.
I did not see that.
I saw that, and he was big in the Southwest. He was him and Tully Blanchard had one heck of a bloody feud down in the Southwest wrestling area, and unfortunately we lost him, and it's just sad that all these older wrestlers are unfortunately passing away. And
we'll definitely have to check that out then when I get off here. We got about 20 seconds left, Scott, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here for everybody. We got more of these coming up in the future. I'll be doing the next one I'm doing is on Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert and the Gilbert family, and I'll have a special guest for that show as well. And then we'll move on beyond them in the future and do more wrestlers and other events as well. So, Scott, hope you join us again in the future for one of these. In the meantime, we'll see you later. Thanks for being with us.
Talk to you later.